All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off, America. You woke up this morning, stretched, poured your patriotic cornflakes into a bowl shaped like the Liberty Bell, and then you turned on the news. Breaking. The president just outlawed fire. No, not in California, not in your uncle's backyard smoker. Fire. Specifically the variety applied to flags. Suddenly, the great nation that invented both monster truck rallies and hand sanitizer-flavored cotton candy is telling you, listen, pal, you can juggle flaming chainsaws, you can set your eyebrows on fire on TikTok for the algorithm, but the second you touch polyester stars and stripes with a Bic lighter, sir, that's 15 years in flag jail. And here's the kicker. People are not just protesting, they're improvising. Washington D.C. had a protest yesterday where a guy didn't even burn a flag. He microwaved it. 30 seconds on high, pulled it out, and yelled, "It's crispy, it's protest chicken now." Another woman filled balloons with helium and tied them to mini flags, chanting, "Up with freedom," as the wind carried them into the reflecting pool. Somewhere, the founding fathers are doing spit takes in their powdered wigs. Meanwhile, the Guardia Nacional in Chicago, oh, don't you worry, that's happening too. Troops are gearing up, but not for war. No, they're apparently training to chase pigeons out of Wrigley Field because, quote, birds don't pay rent. So we've got one city fighting a constitutional crisis with tanks and traffic, and another city fighting polyester bonfires with spray bottles of Febreze. And somehow, these are connected. But let's not forget our side quests, right? Because in the same week, Microsoft employees staged a pro-Palestinian sit-in at headquarters. Imagine the absurdity. Coders chanting, "No Azure for Apartheid," while debugging Excel. You can't parody that. It's already performance art. And yet here we are, weaving it into the grand tapestry of America, where one corner smells like burning flag plastic and the other corner smells like Starbucks and riot gear. And if you're asking why does this matter, it matters because every protest sign, every frying pan drum circle, every horse in Houston gently nudging an activist off a sidewalk, it all points back to the same surreal headline. We are living in a cartoon, and the cartoon just hired lawyers. Picture Chicago, land of deep dish pizza and chronic sports heartbreak, suddenly auditioning for the role of Baghdad, Illinois. The president waves his hand like a magician who flunked out of Vegas, and poof, National Guard on Michigan Avenue. Except they're not storming buildings. No, they're doing TikTok dances in formation because apparently that's the new counterinsurgency strategy. Confuse the crowd with jazz hands until they disperse. Democrats call it a manufactured crisis. And I agree, it's manufactured in the same factory that brought us pumpkin spice spam and Disney adults with mortgage debt. You don't just parachute Humvees into a city and call it public safety. That's like putting a clown in a bank robbery and saying, "Don't worry, he's armed with balloon animals." Meanwhile, back in D.C., the flag-burning protests are evolving like Pokemon. First it was fire, then microwaves. Next up, interpretive dance. I saw a guy slap a flag on the ground, do the worm over it, and declare, "The floor is authoritarian lava." And the cops? They didn't know what to do. One officer just started clapping like, "You know what, 10 out of 10 form, sir." But while the circus is raging, over at the Fed, Trump fires Lisa Cook. This is like firing your smoke alarm because it beeped during a fire, except the fire is Wall Street greed and the smoke is your mortgage rate. Protesters outside the Federal Reserve were holding signs that read, "You can't fire the economy, Donald." Honestly, that's merch. Put it on a hoodie. Etsy will eat it up. And let's bring our pro-Palestine protests back into the mix, because students at Columbia are still staging sit-ins, chanting over megaphones while security guards Google how to handle drum circles legally. Protest is everywhere right now, from consulates in Houston to Schumer's office in New York, from LA marches against militarization to, yes, kids in Ohio yelling at lawmakers about DEI. America's basically one giant improv class that nobody signed up for, but somehow everyone is stuck in. And through it all, we keep circling back to the polyester idol, the stitched-together rectangle, the thing that you're apparently not allowed to roast like a marshmallow anymore. The flag. The more they try to ban it, the more surreal the protests get. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you end up with a man in a Pikachu costume solemnly ironing an American flag on the Capitol steps while chanting, "Starch for freedom."
America doesn't just protest, it accessorizes. Other countries chant, we bring props. You've got folks in D.C. ironing flags in front of the Capitol, but in Chicago, protesters are showing up with inflatable tanks from Party City. Imagine a row of soldiers standing next to a bouncy Castle Abrams, trying not to laugh while a kid yells, "Mom, can I jump in the occupation vehicle?" That's not democracy in crisis. That's a carnival with bad lighting. And yet, the National Guard in Chicago is being sold as restoring order. Order? Have you ever been to a Cubs game? The entire city runs on chaos and nacho cheese. You can't restore order to Chicago. It metabolizes disorder. It digests it like deep-fried protest slogans. By sending in troops, Trump basically told the city, "Congratulations, you're now a live-action video game." Protesters are literally waving cardboard signs that say, "Insert coin to continue." Meanwhile, back at the flag-burning saga, people are finding loopholes. One man duct-taped an American flag to a rotisserie chicken, roasted it at 350 degrees, and said, "Look, officer, I'm just meal prepping." Another painted the stars and stripes on a tortilla and made freedom burritos for the whole crowd. Try criminalizing lunch, Mr. President. Oh, and don't think I forgot about our pro-Palestinian protests. At Microsoft HQ, employees renamed the plaza Martyred Palestinian Children's Square. That's not just a protest, that's a software update nobody approved. You've got coders writing JavaScript while chanting slogans. It's like if Gandhi invented Windows Vista. Meanwhile, outside Senator Schumer's office, activists are banging pots and pans like a chaotic Iron Chef audition. Imagine explaining to the Founding Fathers that the great experiment of liberty would one day climax in 2025 with a man in Crocs screaming, "End the bombing," while holding a frying pan above his head like Thor's hammer. Callbacks, baby. It's all connected. The flag, the pots, the inflatable tanks. America is basically an Etsy shop that only sells rebellion in limited edition drops.
Los Angeles, the city of stars, avocado toast, and now anti-militarization marches that look like Coachella, if Coachella had tear gas. Protesters hit the streets with neon signs reading, "Hands off," but the fonts are so Instagram-ready it feels like a brand launch. I half expected a DJ to remix the chants into a Spotify playlist called "Now That's What I Call Riot, Volume 2025. The LAPD shows up, but instead of riot shields, they look like extras in a Marvel spinoff. Tactical gear, drones overhead, and a megaphone that keeps glitching into auto-tune. Protesters don't back down. They start voguing in the middle of Sunset Boulevard, daring the cops to join. Somewhere, a film student is already pitching it to A24. It's Cats, but make it revolutionary. Meanwhile, let's circle back to D.C. because the flag order is still driving people insane. One guy showed up with a flag made of cheese slices, melted it. Protest achieved. Another stitched together a quilt of old Walmart receipts with stars and stripes on top, lit it on fire, and screamed, "Inflation is the real enemy." Honestly, Pulitzer material. And while all this is happening, Trump is still firing people like he's running The Apprentice, Constitution Edition. Lisa Cook, Fed governor, gone. Who's next? Eagle on the Great Seal? Bets are open. Outside the Fed, protesters are chanting, "Don't fire the economy." Meanwhile, one man is holding a giant novelty pink slip the size of a mattress. You can't tell if it's protest or Broadway rehearsal. And I'd be failing my journalistic duty if I didn't remind you that Columbia students are still at it. Columbia student occupations, sit-ins, suspensions. It's like Hogwarts if Hogwarts specialized in bullhorns and legal liability. Administrators keep trying to end it, but every time they do,
3 new encampments sprout like protest gremlins. This is the rhythm, folks. Every absurdity feeds the next. LA does neon anti-militarization raves, Chicago gets tanks in traffic, DC bans Bic lighters, New York bangs pots, Houston rides horses through encampments. And through it all, the flag burns, roasts, melts, microwaves, or gets sautéed with onions.
Laundry Day. Yes, you thought it was about Tide Pods and missing socks, but in 2025, it's officially an act of sedition. Protesters in D.C. discovered the ultimate loophole. Instead of burning the flag, they're washing it. Giant public laundromats filled with stars and stripes spinning at 1,200 RPM, suds overflowing into the streets. One guy pulled a dripping wet flag out of the washer, slapped it against his chest like Hulk Hogan, and screamed, "Freedom's got a rinse cycle!" And the cops? They didn't know what to do. You can't arrest a man for Downy Fresh. Another protester ironed a flag, spritzed it with Febreze, and yelled, "See, I'm respecting the fabric." This is the surrealist theater we live in now, where constitutional rights hinge on whether your dryer sheet smells like lavender. Meanwhile, back in Chicago, the National Guard is still restoring order, which currently means standing in line at a Portillo's hot dog shop, fully armored, waiting for Italian beef sandwiches. Protesters surround them chanting, "Who do you serve? Who do you protect?" And one soldier, mid-bite, just shrugs. That's the revolution, folks. Tanks in traffic, troops in lunch lines, and protesters live streaming it all on Instagram Live with the caption, "Dictator Starter Pack." And while the laundry revolution bubbles away, New York is banging pots at Schumer's office, pots so loud they set off car alarms in Brooklyn. It's less a protest and more a citywide drum solo. Someone's abuela is out there with a cast iron skillet, shaking it like she's headlining Lollapalooza. Meanwhile, in Redmond, the Microsoft protests keep escalating. Employees chained themselves to cubicles, renaming the servers Free Palestine 01. Somewhere in the code of Word, a protester embedded an Easter egg, so when you type Israel contract, Clippy pops up and says, "It looks like you're trying to end apartheid. Need help with that?" And through it all, the polyester rectangle is haunting the national psyche. Flags washed, folded, marinated, shredded into protest confetti. Every callback drags us back to the same surreal question. Is this freedom, or is this just performance art with legal fees?
Los Angeles again, because of course, protesters shut down the 405 freeway. Not with signs, not with cars, but with a full Broadway production. Imagine 60 people in coordinated choreography singing Hands Off to the tune of Les Miserables. Drivers stuck in traffic weren't even mad, they gave standing ovations from their Teslas. Somewhere in the distance, a guy selling churros turned it into intermission. And here's the absurdity. The LAPD showed up, tried to disperse the crowd, but their megaphone glitched into reverb. Suddenly, the cops sounded like EDM DJs. Protesters danced Carter. That's when someone brought out glow sticks shaped like rifles, chanting, "No more military, only dance battles." Meanwhile, the flag protests in D.C. evolved yet again. Someone projected an American flag onto a building and then used a leaf blower to disperse the light. No fire, no fabric, just pure absurd symbolism. One officer wrote in his report, "Subject attempted to extinguish photons." In Chicago, the National Guard, poor souls, tried to march down Michigan Avenue but got blocked by a drumline of teenagers performing Beyoncé halftime routines. Tanks sat title, soldiers clapped along, and protesters chanted, "Who runs the world? Flags!" It's chaos, but it's choreographed chaos. Over at the Federal Reserve, protesters keep mocking Trump's firing spree. They held a fake job fair outside the building with signs like "Hiring, Independent Economy, Experience Required." People walked around in suits handing out resumes to pigeons. And the pro-Palestine action's still going strong. At Columbia, a group of students staged a sit-in where they only communicated through interpretive dance. Administrators tried to talk, but every question got answered with jazz hands. It's impossible to suspend someone mid-pirouette. And somehow, all of this, the Broadway shutdown, the photon protest, the jazz hands, still circles back to the polyester symbol, because America cannot let go of a rectangle with stripes. It's the world's weirdest Rorschach test. Do you see freedom, or do you see polyester napkin with trust issues?
Houston, Texas, the city that gave us NASA, Beyoncé, and now horses at the protest. Yes, because when you're protesting outside the Israeli consulate, apparently the cavalry shows up. 22 people arrested, and the viral clip isn't even about the charges. It's a horse politely nudging a protester like, "Excuse me, ma'am, your First Amendment rights are blocking my tail." And the internet went wild. TikTok remixes, hashtags like #HorseCop2025, edits where the horse gets auto-tuned into singing Old Town Road while protesters chant in the background. Forget tanks in Chicago, the real authoritarian mascot now has hooves. Meanwhile, in D.C., the flag-burning band continues its descent into surrealism. A man showed up with a flag-shaped piñata, filled it with candy, smashed it open, and yelled, "Sweet freedom!" The cops didn't know if they should arrest him or just grab a lollipop. Another protester printed a QR code on a flag, and when scanned, it took you to a YouTube playlist of 90s sitcom theme songs. That's protest now. Spotify curation with felony charges. And let's not forget our friends in Chicago. The National Guard tried to hold a press conference. Big mistake. Protesters drowned them out by blasting the final countdown on kazoos. You haven't lived until you've seen an armored officer trying to talk about public order while 300 people honk kazoos like dying geese. Meanwhile, pro-Palestinian activists keep pushing hard. At Microsoft HQ, they covered the lobby with sticky notes saying, "In the contract." It looked less like a protest and more like a kindergarten art show curated by Karl Marx. And the symbolism works. It's absurd, it's colorful, and it drives security guards absolutely feral. Callbacks everywhere. Horses, kazoos, piñatas, polyester. America isn't just a democracy, it's a circus tent with bad Wi-Fi.
New York City, baby. The only place where Wall Street bros and Broadway dancers can share a subway car at 3 a.m. Protesters swarmed Senator Schumer's office. Pots, pans, skillets, the whole Williams-Sonoma inventory banging in unison. It wasn't just a protest, it was a noise concert. Somebody even brought a sousaphone. That's right, resistance has a brass section now. And the sound was so chaotic, so thunderous, that one bystander swore it rattled the stock tickers in Times Square. Imagine some poor tourist, fresh off the bus from Ohio, watching a sea of New Yorkers in Crocs slam frying pans while yelling "Free Gaza" and thinking, "Yeah, this is exactly what I pictured." Back in D.C., the flag obsession reached new levels. A guy brought a slip and slide painted like the American flag. Protesters took turns sliding across it, chanting, "Constitutional Water Park." Police just stood there, trying not to laugh as adults belly flopped for democracy. Another genius wore a flag as a cape, lit sparklers, and shouted, "Come at me, Uncle Sam." That man is either a protester or a Marvel audition reject. It's hard to tell. And Chicago keeps spinning too. Guards on the ground, protesters blasting remixes of Beyoncé, and someone actually set up a dunk tank labeled "Dunk Authoritarianism." Pay $5, dunk a soldier. That's not rebellion. That's Six Flags with subpoenas. And while the frying pans clanged in New York, across the country in L.A., the anti-militarization protests escalated into a full-blown rave. Neon signs, glow paint, DJs spinning protest remixes of Born in the USA. America is now one giant protest festival, and everyone's invited, except the people trying to govern it. And what ties it all back together? That flag, that rectangle, that polyester blanket we can't stop roasting, washing, microwaving, piñatifying, slip and sliding. It's no longer just cloth. It's a comedy prop, a symbol, a punchline that refuses to retire. Outside the Federal Reserve, protesters finally cracked the code. If Trump is going to fire Fed governors like he's cutting contestants on The Bachelor, then the people will just hire themselves. They staged a fake job fair on the Fed's front steps. Imagine hundreds of folks in thrift store suits handing resumes to pigeons. One guy even wore a name tag. "Hi, I'm the new interest rate." And it only got weirder. Somebody rolled out a giant novelty check, like the ones you see on game shows, that said, "Paid to the order of the economy." The amount? Infinity dollars. Signed, not Trump. That's not protest. That's avant-garde economics. Meanwhile, flag protests in D.C. escalated to culinary heights. Somebody made an American flag charcuterie board, ate it live on TikTok, and declared, "I'm digesting liberty." Police were left debating whether swallowing brie counts as a misdemeanor. Another group formed a barbershop quartet singing "This Flag is on Fire" a cappella. Honestly, they slapped. And let's not ignore Chicago, where the National Guard tried to march but got stopped cold by grandmothers. Elderly ladies in folding chairs knitting "No Justice, No Peace" scarves right in the middle of the street. Tanks can't roll over abuelitas knitting. International law forbids it, so they just sat, knitted, and hummed Beyoncé. Callbacks everywhere: resumes, cheese platters, knitting, polyester pyrotechnics. America is now a reality show produced by Kafka and directed by Mel Brooks. Los Angeles once again, because LA cannot resist a spotlight, protesters turned Hollywood Boulevard into a catwalk, the Resistance Runway Show. Models strutted in DIY protest couture, dresses made of shredded flags, capes that read "No King's Day." One guy in a tuxedo made entirely of police citations. Every step was met with chants of "Slay democracy, slay!" And yes, they had commentary. Someone with a megaphone narrated like it was Fashion Week. And here comes Marissa, in a bold ensemble featuring duct tape and despair. The Cup stood there baffled, because you can't kettle a runway. Meanwhile, in New York, the Pots and Pans Orchestra hit Carnegie Hall levels. Protesters claimed it was the largest kitchenware symphony in history. Somewhere, Gordon Ramsay fainted. And the flag obsession? It's now digital. Protesters launched a website where you can virtually burn a flag by clicking a lighter emoji. Within hours, the site crashed from traffic. Imagine the founding fathers seeing this. People in powdered wigs frantically clearing cachet to burn digital cloth. Chicago tried one more time to flex authority, but instead of order, they got a flash mob of mimes silently protesting in front of tanks. Soldiers tried to give commands, but the mimes just pretended to pull invisible ropes around the vehicles. The crowd went nuts. National Guard 0, Street Theater 1. And weaving it all back, the absurdity never ends. Fashion runways, mimes, kitchenware symphonies, digital lighters, the polyester rectangle keeps mutating like a protest Pokemon. Yes, America exports everything. Fast food, Marvel movies, and now our protest absurdity. Clips of the D.C. flag protests are going viral worldwide. In Berlin, activists staged a solidarity rally where they cooked bratwursts on a grill shaped like the U.S. flag. In Paris, protesters waved baguette flags. Tokyo, a cosplay group dressed as Uncle Sam characters argued with Pikachu holding a torch. This isn't politics, it's Comic-Con with geopolitical stakes. Back in Houston, the horse protest clip is still looping everywhere. People are remixing it into EDM tracks, TikToks, even lullabies. A protester was overheard saying, "I got nudged by democracy on 4 legs." The horse is more famous than half of Congress now. Meanwhile, Columbia University students occupied the library again, this time turning it into a literal classroom called the Basel Al-Araj Popular University. Lectures on resistance, midterms on chanting. Imagine flunking because your bullhorn battery died mid-slogan. And Chicago? Oh, Chicago is leaning in. Protesters projected giant video game health bars onto tanks. Every time someone chanted, the health bar dropped. The guards had no idea what was happening. Gamers did. Boss fight unlocked. Through it all, that polyester fabric still rules the stage. Quilted, burned, baked, digitized, it's the canvas on which this whole absurdist mural is painted. Here's the truth. We laugh, we mock, we exaggerate, because America is absurd. But behind every kazoo protest, every horse nudge, every frying pan symphony, there's a heartbeat. People care enough to show up, to stand, to make noise, or silence, or even surreal performance art that confuses cops and delights TikTok. The flag? It's just cloth. But what it represents, the right to dissent, to mock, to burn, to wash, to microwave, that's not cloth. That's freedom. And every protest, whether it's in Chicago with tanks, in New York with skillets, in Houston with horses, or in Los Angeles with neon raves, that's democracy. Alive, messy, loud, and occasionally hilarious. So yes, we'll keep circling back. The polyester rectangle will keep haunting us because it's the stage prop of a nation trying to figure itself out. But beyond the comedy, here's the takeaway. Protest is the voice of the people, and even in absurdity, that voice is sacred. Unity, dignity, freedom. That's not satire. That's the serious part. And if the Founding Fathers could see us now, I think they'd roll in their graves, but then they'd sit up, clap along with the frying pans, and whisper, "At least they're still fighting."